Start recording. Recording. Okay, so here, what is the session? This is Marcin and Katarina. We're going to explain how to do documentation on collaborative documents, CAD, CD Home 6. How do we do collaborative documentation? So if you want to collaborate on documentation, a point to remember is that, I'm going to stop sharing. Point to remember is documentation is really hard. It takes more time than you think, and we need a collaborative development process to do it. In this short video, we're going to go over how we actually generate the documentation, the instructionals, including tech drawings from the CAD files. So first, let's access the CAD file. I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to share my screen. So on the wiki, which is wiki.opensourceecology.org/wiki. That's the first place you go to. That's the wiki. Okay. CD Home 6 is on a page called CD Home 6. This is an index of all the assets that are available. So for example, 3D CAD, line item number 5. Click on the CD Home 6 3D CAD, and here you can download the FreeCAD file. Okay, so this is the drive where the file is found. We update this on a continuous basis. If there's any improvements made, we always go here. So if you click on that, go into the CD Home 4 assembly. Click on that and download. Okay, so once you download that, it scans for viruses, and it will download it somewhere wherever it does. I'm going to open it up. So before we do that, you got to download FreeCAD. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. Just Google download FreeCAD. Use the current version of it, whatever that is. That's FreeCAD 1, version 1.0. And after you do it, you double click on the file that you just downloaded, and what happens? FreeCAD opens. So I'm opening it right now. Okay, if you see my screen, the FreeCAD opens like this. This is my screen. I just opened up the FreeCAD file. Had a little lag there. This is the FreeCAD file of the home. Okay? You can click View Orthographic. Okay. This is the file. That's what it looks like. What you need to understand is the part tree. So this, you can hide and unhide parts in this overall file, which is complete. Download the file, open it, any version. Now I'm going to get into the idea of FreeCAD version 16, which is outdated, and you can hardly get any Linux system to run it now because it's from 2016. Now, the big point about it is it has a technical drawings workbench, which you can learn in minutes. So now FreeCAD 1 made that much more complicated, and if you're going to do the technical drawings, good luck. Teach me, because I don't know how to do it, and because we're interested in teaching masses of people how to collaborate, I'm not even going to start trying to teach somebody how to use the tech workbench, tech drawings workbench in FreeCAD 1. Now, for FreeCAD 16, there are instructionals on the wiki for how to do it, and you can learn those in an hour or under an hour, in minutes. So let me go back to the wiki. And where do you find the instructionals? So tech drawing workbench on the wiki. Tech draw on the wiki. Tech draw workbench. there's an instructional of how to do this. And the important thing you want to do is find that instructional. So technical, I'm going to search for it. Bear with me. I'm going to link the instructional. I did an instructional of how do you generate technical drawings within FreeCAD 16, which you can learn readily. Now, for the purpose of this video that we're preparing on how to do instructionals, tech drawings absolutely help. That's how we design and build. That's how we, well, tech drawings is how we build the different modules for the CDK home when we get into the real builds. See the link in the video description. I will add that. Follow that, learn it, and then you'll be fully able to do this process. So now we're going to switch over to Katarina. So now you've downloaded the file. You've got FreeCAD open, and Katarina will take over for how to go from here. Katarina.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So here, let me start by showing you. This is an instructional that we already created for how to build this little the back porch, like So we're gonna start from the beginning. So I'm gonna go into FreeCAD here, and so the first thing I kind of want to do is to get a screenshot that gives you a good shot of like what we're going to build, that shows all the elements. There's a roof, there are walls, there's a deck, there's a post. So now I position my camera in a way that like I basically adjusted my model here in a way that I think shows what I want to show. So then I'm going to go into my screenshot software here. I'm going to put it on the side, do select area to grab, take screenshot, and I'm going to select what area. So as soon as I release the mouse, it will take a screenshot. Then it gives me option of saving or copying to clipboard. I just copy to clipboard and close this, and then I open my Google document they already created. I'm just going to add a new slide here. I select it. I'm just going to delete this first, and then I just do Control V, and here's my screenshot. So basically, okay, so I already did that in a way. I did this other one showing just the structure, mostly the structure of the roof and the walls and everything, and just identifying what are the different parts that go into building this little porch. There are 2 deck modules right here, and there's another one next to it. There are 2 wall modules, one here and one here. There is one 4x4 post, and there is one roof frame. Now, one thing that is important with tutorials is like to kind of understand what screenshots you need to convey the information that you want to convey. So for example, like I think that including this is a good idea because it starts by showing you. So I'm going to make this my first slide because it shows you the finished product that you're building. So you can just start with that. Then I'll do like a little some breadcrumbs here. Um, so I'm going to say build instructions, back veranda or back porch, right? So this is just basically tells you what this page is showing you. And I'm going to do build instructions, back veranda, modules, because that's what this page is all about, right? Um, okay, so then we get into now, okay, so now the first thing we need to do then is build these modules right here. the deck, the walls, the posts, and the frame, right? There's no assembly until we've built those modules. So the deck modules are the first thing because they're on the ground. They're what goes first. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get in here into FreeCAD, and I'm going to basically turn off everything that is not the deck because I want to show what it's going to look like when you're with the piece that you're starting. But I also have, in addition to this, I have sub-assemblies. So this is the main assembly. I have sub-assemblies here. Structural assemblies is my part. I have a folder called back veranda, and in that I have a folder called back veranda deck, which is basically
Okay, but let's hold on a sec now.
yeah.
So let's tell people where to find all this. So
Okay.
you downloaded the file. Let me just fill in here. So I'm going to go back to my screen, and you saw this folder here that for download of the CAD file. I showed you CEH4, CD home. Okay, let's call that SEH6 assembly. That's
Why
the
don't you
full.
give them a tour of what's in the other four folders, like quickly?
Yeah, exactly. Um, let's start by renaming that 6.
Mhm.
That's that. This is the final overall assembly. Structural assemblies are big parts of the overall assembly. So, back veranda, floor, front veranda, roof. So these are just some. They're not all assemblies, right? So do we have any more, or that's all we have so far in terms of separate folders?
The, these are the only ones we have in terms of separate folders besides wall modules.
Okay. So let's go so that was structural assemblies. Wall modules is typically day one of a build because you got to build all the wall modules in this swarm build method. And for this here, we've got all the wall modules, and these are simply extracted from the FreeCAD file and turned into an individual file. So we've got about 40, I think the number is 46 or so altogether for all the modules, but here we separate them into all the modules that exist. So that's that. If we go back to parts, what do we have in parts? Various different parts. So you have various files too. Now so this is CAD technical. Where are our PDFs of the finished, the technical drawing PDFs?
So go back to the little dots there, the three dots, and go to CD Go Home 3, and you have documentation there. Sorry, there's a puppy with the zoomies.
So we also have the PDFs here. But this is okay, so we've got 1 through 54. Now, are these updated or do we need to modify any? So, for example,
These are not updated. No, I will need to regenerate all of these.
so this is from the last build, and there maybe mild changes have been made or they have been completed. So we're going to regenerate these, but they're here. Documentation wall modules. So if we go back to so once again, the FreeCAD this drive is here. CD Go Home 6 assembly. So structural assemblies is what I wanted to show, which is where Katerina, for example, has the veranda. So if you click on the veranda, you can get all those individual modules. So you can go in terms of documenting, you can break things down into parts and further parts to the point where you have every single module in a separate CAD file, which helps if you actually want to generate a technical drawing for building it. But in the collaborative session, we'll work typically from the main assembly. So just worry about SEH6 assembly right here. Okay, so I'll let you talk again, Katerina.
Okay. Well, so this is okay. So this is the module that we designed, right? This is the deck of the back porch. But now I need to tell someone how to build it. So the first thing I did, like Marcin just mentioned, is it exists in a separate file. In fact, I designed it in a separate file. So basically, I designed it on this file, and then I added it to this file. So now, the first thing we need to do in order to get a technical drawing out of this, well, first let me show you something. You see how like this deck looks weird, like it's distorted? It has to do with the view. There are two views in FreeCAD. There's the orthographic view, which is really good to get this kind of thing, like very flat. But and then there's the perspective view. And in the perspective view, you can see it looks correct. Now, this doesn't really matter for the tech drawings. You can be in either view. But the first thing I'm going to have to do, and this is like a tech, is like I need to create a single file that contains all the parts, because that's the only way you can use the drawing bench. Okay, so I already did that. I have a single file that shows me both the frame and the deck boards of this deck module. So then I'm going to go into here and select drawing dimensioning on FreeCAD. I'm going to click this button to insert a new drawing, and then I'm going to select what views of my object I want shown there. Um, why isn't this showing me anything? Okay, hold on. Turning dimensioning. Okay. Oh, it's because I already have one. Okay, I already have one created. Okay, which is this one. It's not letting me add another one. So I am going to, just for the sake of showing you how to create a new
Okay,
drawing.
so this is getting technical drawings is the most critical thing for like how do you build this? This is actual real technical stuff. Now note that Katerina is using FreeCAD 16, and that's a download of OSE Linux 2.0. You can do it there, but if you yeah, you can do that and run it as a live USB or whatever, however you can get it to run. Now she can actually use this fully on her computer, but it's on Linux Cinnamon V21 or such, which is actually not supported anymore. So this is like a security risk. Just do it at your own risk. But that's the trouble with FreeCAD 16, that it runs only on older versions of Linux or other computers. But that's the point. Here is how you actually do it. And as I said, good luck figuring that out in FreeCAD 1. We're still trying to resolve this issue. Like, how do we use this on a modern Linux version? Because if you do download even like the flat pack of FreeCAD 16, it just crashes. It doesn't work anymore. So there's an issue there. So we're switching between two different systems. Like Katerina uses the FreeCAD 16 on an updated version of Linux 2.0, meaning you do the software update for Linux 2.0 and it still works there. So if you have any suggestions of how to actually make it work, let us know. We're trying to figure it out. Doing things like, for example, VirtualBox or whatever to run an older version, but still, that I had issues with that too on my computer. So we're still trying to resolve it. So Katerina will show you how. Okay, you take, say you have something you want to get a technical drawing from. Here's the process from A to Z. So Katerina, show the process.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to copy a design they already have, which is this DAC module. So I'm just going to copy it and I'm going to paste it into a new document. Okay, so I copied it here. It seems like nothing showed up, but if I click this little icon here, it says fits the whole content on the screen. It's going to show it to me. Well, no,
Okay,
it's
close
not.
all your other tabs, copy and paste into a new
Yeah,
document.
that's what I just did. Um, oh, okay.
You got to select it
Let's try
first.
this. Yeah, I did. I did this. I came to unnamed. Okay, here we are. Okay, now it's here. Okay, so here it is. I just copied this.
Can
Now
you close
this
the
is a,
other FreeCAD tabs just so people don't get confused? So FreeCAD has different viewing windows. We're just closing them at the bottom there, so you see just the one
okay.
file, the
Okay.
working file in this tab.
So I'm just going to save this as test. That's it. It doesn't matter. Okay. So now this is my file. It has a lot of parts. Like it has several parts. Like you can see here all the parts that make this up. Now, you to get a technical drawing, we need a single part because FreeCAD won't let us do it all of these parts. So what I'm going to do is select all of these, every single part that goes into this design. I'm going to go into the
Stop and
part
tell people how to
workbench.
select everything. Can you just Control A and select everything?
Well, what I do is because mine are, yeah, you can do Control A, that will work. It just basically selects every single thing,
Okay,
doesn't
so
matter.
do that.
Okay.
Control A.
Yeah. And then I'm going to go into the part bench. So you see, this is where you select your benches part. And then within the part, I'm going to select the part uh, menu, and then I'm going to do make compound. And it just basically squished all of these parts together, but it's still not a single file. Like if you click here inside the compound, there's still the individual files. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do part again and do create simple copy. And now I have a single copy of all of the parts together. So they're all one object now. Now, they're still in separate objects now. Now, what I'm going to do is select my compound and just delete it, and that will basically spit out all the parts as they existed. So now I have two versions of this. I have one version with all the individual parts, and I have a version that is just a simple copy. Now, I'm going to go into the drawing dimensioning bench, right? And I'm going to select the single object that has all the parts into a single object. Then from there, I'm going to click this A3 icon that to insert a new drawing and just creates this page. So now you can see that you have, if you look at the bottom here on the left tab, I have my 3D CAD, and on the right tab, I have a sheet from my drawing. So now I'm going to insert the drawing that I just selected into there, and I need to tell it how I want it. Normally, we want for the first view of the object to be like a frontal view, so you understand what you're doing. Now, this is just a side view of my deck. That doesn't tell me much. So I'm going to pick a view. I'm going to go through this and pick a view that shows me, like, okay, this is a, well, I want to see the bottom of it. I think that this is the best because it shows me the framing and it shows me the deck, right? So now our convention is that we usually do two more views just to situate yourself. One is this one, no, this one here. So it shows you another view, and then this one here. So if you look at my screen, I'm just basically selecting different views of the same object, and these are the ones we typically do. And in addition to that, we also click this box here, show hidden lines, because this makes the object semi-transparent, so you can see through parts of the object. Okay, so now I'm going to click OK. Now, the way you do dimensions is we're going to click on this icon here that says add linear dimension, and that just generates all of these dots, all of these green dots you can see here. So now say I want to tell people that they are going to use 2x6s to make this frame. I'm going to click one dot, click another dot, and after I do that, a dimension appears, and you can just pull it up like that. Now, if I don't like what I did and I want to delete it, I'm going to click on this icon right here that says delete a dimension, and I'll just click on the red dot, and it's gone. Okay, so this is how you add a dimension. But then the next thing you have to do is decide what dimensions does someone building this need to know about, right? Like, I'm not going to measure everything. I'm just going to give them a few critical dimensions. So let's start with the first one. First, I want them to know that this is a 2x6. So I'm going to do it here, and that 5.5, they know it's a 2x6. They also going to need to know how wide is this deck. It's 4 feet. So I'm going to pull this here.
48
This
inches, 5.5 inches.
right. Now, what else do they need to know? They're going to need to cut this board here. So they're going to need to know how long is this board right here, right? So now they know how long this board is. They know how long these on the side are. I'm just going to do close, right? So now they know how long these are. These are all 48, right? These here. They know that this one is 81. At this point, they can cut all the parts. They have all the information they need to cut the parts. What then they need to know, and they know that this one fits this one like this one fits this one like this. Now, what they don't know is where does this one go? So I'm going to give them a measurement, and we're going to always measure from one of the outside points because that's where you hook your tape. So I'm going to say from this point to this point here is 23 inches and a quarter, right? And at this point, I think you have all the information you need to build this,
Not
Marcin.
yet. How about decks and deck and what lumber that is? Decking is
Oh, the decking. Yes, yes. Okay, so they know that the lumber is okay. So I'm gonna tell them that the decking is also is a 5.5 long and 1.25 thick.
and you got to label the 5.5 and 1.5 so people know that this is 2 by lumber.
Okay, so now um, we we need to add a label. So we're gonna click on this text label here. I'm just a little primitive, but I'm just gonna go in here and type uh, 5/4 inch. I don't think it lets me do the symbols. 5/4 inch decking boards. 2 by 2 by 2 by 5/4 inch decking boards. Okay, and now I'm just gonna
What do you
drag
mean
this
2
into
by?
here.
What do you mean 2 by?
That's what. That's 1 by. No, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, just 5/4.
5/4 by 6
5/4 by 6 decking boards. Yep.
decking board. Sorry. Okay, so I'm just gonna put this in here. Um, and you can see this resets immediately. So if you want to use the same text twice, you're going to have to copy it or rewrite it. So now I want to point to where the boards are. So I'm just going to get this little arrow here. I'm going to say, uh, I want the arrow to go from here to here, and then double click to close it. And that's it. So now we have this label here.
You need a 1.5 dimension to specify that this is 2 bys for the rest of it. And then you might want to say 2
Okay.
by treated because this is treated.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So now I'm going to insert another text and I'm going to say all framing members
2 by 6 treated.
made of pressure treated 2 by 6s. Ugh. And I guess I could put it here. Now, I probably also want to label this because once we print it, we might not remember what this is anymore. So I'm just going to do uh, back. Oh, sorry. My keyboard is problematic. Back veranda, deck module, and I can even do, okay, so I'm going to do this in like big letters here so people understand it's the title. Okay, and then I can even go back and say build two, meaning we need 2 modules. Okay, and Marcin, can you think of anything?
Yeah, that's good. So that's just an example. You're
Okay,
basically doing dimension arrows between
right.
basic.
Okay, so now I'm gonna save this file. So now every time you open this test file that I created, it's gonna come with this page, right? So this page is basically now attached to this file. Now you may want to just have a PDF of this, which you can, because then you just go to File, Export PDF, and then you can just get a PDF that is just this drawing. And that's usually what we do to print them out to take to the shop.
Or the other thing we do, so either you just get this out of FreeCAD into PDF or go back into Google Slides. So let's
Okay,
have
yeah,
a brief interlude on Google Slides. Let me
okay.
take over here for a second. So what are Google Slides? And this is basic stuff, but for example, let's take a look at the current working document, this build instructions doc that we're working on. And the point of Google Slides is that, so this is Google Slides. You can do, and I'll show you. So yeah, we cut and paste different things in here. We put in pictures, like, you know, for example, here's a picture of, oh, here we're just building it. You can insert pictures, you can do text, you can insert the CAD. So here's, for example, something that we got out of FreeCAD, but also now you can annotate it, you know, whatever, just do this annotation. So if you can learn how to do various things like put in text, put in pictures, screenshots, real pictures, hyperlinks. What's an example of a hyperlink? For example, I can link to the PDF where we actually have the link of the actual file here. You know, so this is hyperlinked. Now the big point about, so yeah, simple diagrams, you know, okay, for everything. And this is what you'll see during the Builder Crash Course. You know, you've got these kinds of various drawings. You can get crazy on all kinds of information that you're presenting here, or screenshots right from FreeCAD, or visual bills of materials, like for example, where you click on it and you actually get the part. So that's an example of a visual bill of materials where within our work doc, you actually link to the correct sourcing link. So you have here what we call a visual bill of materials, where you actually break this down into parts and they're hyperlinked. So you can do all kinds of procedures. Just to show you, these are screenshots from FreeCAD that we then, as a next step, annotate. Things like this. Whenever you want to put a CAD link, like you can, if it's in blue, then it's probably hyperlinked. So for example, here we also have the link to the source files, which is useful. So in these documents, you have, you know, you're basically putting in loads of information, from bills of materials to build instructions to real pictures, how we got the permit to move this house from the last workshop, etc. Very useful. Now, the big point about this is that an unlimited number of people can edit these docs all at the same time. That's a big deal. So now we can talk about, okay, all the participants in a workshop, anyone else, let's do a swarm documentation session. So in this doc, you can have, when this is shared here, this document is such that anyone with the link is an editor. Okay, so that's how we share. We share a lot of files with edit permissions, or at least view permissions. But here, if you want everyone to edit this, we select open access. And then people can be working on this all at the same time from all over the world. And the point being, documentation is hard, takes a lot of work. So if we get a lot of people doing that, we have even a hope of keeping the documentation up with a build. So we're iterating rapidly through all the different versions. We're in version 6. Now the next version that we build for the December Builder Crash Course is going to be called version 7. It might have minor tweaks. And we update documentation for each model, and there's so much of the documentation that can happen, and we get people to collaborate on this. So that's a brief intro. So for example, if I just create slide, duplicate slide, okay, cool. Okay, you can sample slide. You see I'm editing that. If I go to my photo album, say the most recent stuff, I want to paste in the latest here in the sunset. Okay, copy image, paste it. So this is the Google Slides are quite versatile. You know, you can create instructionals, especially if you use templates. You can. So, you know, a good format is if you're doing an instructional, okay, here's a picture, step number 1, okay? And then here on the left-hand side, you can do a description. Roll out roofing membrane, step 1, etc. Now, there's a lot of different dedicated software where you can do instructionals. I am not sure that there's any single one that allows an unlimited number of people to work on it live. What does that mean? That as soon as I make this change, any other editor sees the change as well. So you can coordinate a large team of people. There are other softwares, I'm not sure if anything has the capacity of multiple people editing, say instructionals, and the changes appearing at the same time. Typically it works where only one person can edit. Google Docs is Slides. Google Slides is a decent solution here. It's a well-established platform. It's not going to go away. We can always export or print the data. So, you know, we're more or less in control of the data. But the beautiful thing about this is multiple people editing at the same time where you see what the people are doing. So in principle, if we get 1,000 people to do a design, break it down, you can in principle have way accelerated development processes for collaborative design and builds. So that's the point about Google Slides. Now, I won't bother you with more details about Google Slides. The one thing that you definitely want to learn is how to put hyperlinks into it. So for example, if I actually want to put a hyperlink to this picture, what I typically do is put a blue boundary around it to note that it's actually hyperlinked, and then I could add a link to it. So for example, in the photo album, I can copy that and then paste in this link, and then you can actually, when you see this picture, you can actually click on a source. Hey, that's pretty powerful. If you can get the source into these collaboratively edited docs, that's a big deal, just for ease of documentation. Okay, so that's an aside on Google Slides. Look up Google Slides. It's a very well-known platform, very useful for making diagrams of all sorts, pictures, etc. You know, you got all kinds of different things. You can draw different shapes. That's a brief overview. Okay, now let's go back to. I'm going to stop sharing here, and back to Katerina regarding what makes for a decent instructional. Like, how do we do this? What are all the different things you want to put into a build doc so that somebody can replicate it? What's the goal here? The goal is that thousands or millions of people build these homes. And that's a reality that's starting to happen, right? There's only a few out there. But if this design is good, many people are going to benefit from it. So we produce documentation. So Katerina, tell us, what else do we want to put into a build instructional?
Well, I mean, there are some things like, for example, like we already talked about, like start with just basically a general overview of all the parts. But basically at every step, you have to ask yourself, is this enough information for someone to build this, right? So this is like the deck, the tech drawing that we generated earlier. But then I added a little bit here. The back for end the deck uses two deck modules. So this is basically telling you you need two of these. The module's frame is made of pressure treated 2x6. The decking consists of 5/4 pressure treated deck boards, right? So hopefully someone knows how to do this. And I'm going to do the same for the walls, right? So now on the walls, they also need to know which side is the inside and which side is the outside. So there's that indication here. This is the side that faces the inside. This faces the outside. This is the top. This is the bottom, right? And then, for example, here on my drawing, I am showing this module, but then there's these extra pieces there that will confuse someone. So I added a note that this blocking is added after the walls are installed. So meaning when they build the module, they don't need to worry about this, right? And then again, it tells you what to do and what materials to use. So then on we go. Now, this is an interesting example here because now we need to, so we built the deck, we built the wall with two deck modules, two wall modules. Now we need to build a roof. But to build the roof, we need these angled rafters, which is what these parts here are called, because this is an angled roof, right? Now, what I did was I didn't just design the angled roof, I designed a jig to cut those angles correctly. So what we have here is basically the first step towards building this roof is you have to build this jig. So I'm telling you once again what materials to use to build a jig, right? Then this is second, it tells you how to use the jig. It basically says take a piece of wood, set it down on your jig, and cut it along the dotted line, or mark it and cut it along the dotted line. And you're going to have these perfect rafters that are just going to fit exactly our roof. Now we've got your rafters. I have to tell you how to build the roof. So once again, it's telling you, once again, ask yourself, if I was building this, what dimensions would I need to know? And what information would I need to have, right? What kind of materials they are, how you assemble it, everything. And on we go. So that was the first part of the roof. Now, with more complex things, Marcin usually uses like a tech drawing of the full assembly because he's very used to reading it. I find that for someone building something for the first time, sometimes it's easier to split it into two parts. So that's what I did here. Roof frame part one, saying first build this, don't worry about anything else, and then add this on top of it. Now, as you become more experienced, you probably don't need that first step. You can just look at this drawing here and know what's what. But again, imagine someone who has not seen your CAD, they're on the workshop, they don't have a computer. What do they need to know to build this? And then, so now we basically built two deck modules, the roof module and two wall modules. Now we need to start installing things. And this is, I think, where it gets a little more tricky, which is what do you need to know to assemble things, to pick your modules and start building a house out of them, right? So the very first thing we're going to do here is we need, where we start? We start with the bottom. We start with the deck, right? So one of the things that first things that I do is I go into my FreeCAD here. I'm going to close these. I'm going to open my assembly file, the main file that Marcin showed earlier. Okay. It's opening. Okay, this is my back veranda. This is how it's going to look when it's finished. But I want to teach you how to build it. So I'm going to show it to you what it looks like before it was finished. So I'm going to select the parts. Basically, you just go into you select either a part or a folder of parts, right? And you press the space bar. And basically, that just turns its visibility on and off here. So now this is what it, Marcin, I'm hearing an echo. Is that something you can do on your end?
Yeah, I can maybe mute myself.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now this is how you start, right? So now you have these two modules, the two deck modules that we just taught you how to build. Now what do you do with them? right? How do you, like, okay, you're going to put them here, but how do you know where to put them? So that's important. So then I basically got a screenshot of this, and I went into my Google Slides, and I said the back veranda is centered in front of the two sliding doors, meaning the middle of the deck is is at the same point as the middle point between the doors. And then I just put an arrow pointing. This is the middle of the center point of the deck. This is the center point between the doors, right? Then it said the top of the deck should be aligned with the top of the house's subfloor. Then remove a few deck boards to screw the deck into the house's box floor. Again, like, as detailed instructions as you can. How is someone going to do this, right? So basically, that is just the gist of it. And then you just keep going through all of this. Like, what other hardware are you going to need? Give them a picture of that hardware because they might not know what the name is, or maybe they know it by a different name. So give it a picture and possibly even a link to that hardware. Like this post here, we're at the walls and posts installation. They need to know that that's what goes into this post. And on we go with just those rules, I think. Marcin, can you think of anything
Okay,
else?
sure. Sure. So
You gotta unmute. Oh, yeah.
we talked briefly about what to do for an instructional screenshots. Now, if you have no clue as far as how to build something, how do you do it? So there you have to actually use some logic, but people ask me, okay, what's the first step? I don't know. So I say, okay, if you have access to the CAD file, so let me share my screen. I'll tell you a little bit about logicking, just using logic to see if you have no clue how to build something. You can already start guessing or making informed decisions based on the fact that you have access to the CAD. Let's go to the CAD. So say you have the master file, and in the workshop we'll have a computer with the master file on it, but I really do encourage everybody in the workshop to download this. You have to worry about Linux 2.0 or anything. Just download the FreeCAD file and download FreeCAD, period. Don't worry about FreeCAD 16 unless you want to do the technical drawings. So the part about hiding and unhiding things is the powerful thing. So if you look at the file itself, it's got 3 main modules: the kitchen, bed, bathroom, family room. And this is basically the starter home, 720 square feet, that expands into a full house of about 1,400 that's designed. But this is 720 square feet. Let's take one module, like for example, let's turn off everything. Let's just take this one here, okay? In the workshop itself, we'll be building three in parallel, so that we can start with this one. But so you take a look at this, like say you're doing the bed and bath module. Kitchen. We just, in this example here, I hid everything else. I've just got this one module called family room. Okay, so now you can start peeking inside. So if you unfold it, so you click the little arrow and it unfolds into the parts. All right, you turn everything on, but do we get any insight from actually hiding and unhiding parts? Well, yeah. And then if you're building it, you probably might want to start with a floor to put your walls on, right? And then you've got top plate, which goes above it. Like for example, would you say, oh, you build the top plate first? Well, you can't really do that without the walls. You can't hang it in midair. So it's, it's kind of logical. And you can use this kind of basic logic. I'm simplifying here. But a lot of things will make sense. And when you stop and think about it, you kind of analyze it and see what makes sense. So after that, you obviously can't put on a roof without the structure underneath it, So in terms of build order, the roof will go next. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't build some of these modules. Okay, let's get rid of the roof. If the floor is the thing that everything sits on, it doesn't mean that you can't build the walls, okay? Because we build things modularly. So if you look at the walls, you've got all these walls, say the back walls, and you once again split that into what these all are. So you got the back walls now. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. So these are the individual units that we build, and you can certainly build them before you build the floor if you're building the modules, right? So then you can save the modules and then put them on your floor, right? So that's just simple logic, but it's literally that you think about it and you try to logic out what makes sense. You can do the same kind of logic for, okay, say I just want to build now this module. Like, how do you even start? Well, how would you start this? You start by analyzing what is this like? Well, it's got these 4 outside pieces, like the frame around it, 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Maybe start with those, perhaps. So you look at your technical drawing where it's got all the dimensions, and yeah, probably you might want to bound it with a box so you can fit everything to it. Because if you have the box, then you know that these pieces of wood go on the bottom of the box, and then they're bounded at the top by whatever you have here. So between dimensions, having the dimensions and just thinking about it, you kind of think, okay, what's the build order here? Like, for example, this part here with these 2 verticals, I mean, you probably are not going to build that before you have this bigger aperture, right? Yeah. So if you're doing an actual build instructional, you can pretty much logic out, and you can start by doing a first guess. You can say, oh, okay, I'm going to build the outer frame. Maybe I'll do this big header piece, then fit this one below it, then fit the sides, and then fit in these verticals and a top here. Okay, yeah, I just summarized a build instructional, so then you have to write it down as explicit steps. Now, for a person that's just building it, say you're a complete novice. You don't know anything about a door, how this actually frames in a door, okay? What do you do? Well, it's useful for you to have the instructionals. So in the process before the workshop, leading up to it, we produce detailed instructional step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that you don't have to guess what to do first. And a lot of times it may not be obvious what's first and second if you have no experience. So if you have the instructionals, then you can figure out how to do it effectively. And that's going to be the purpose of the swarm documentation, that we make it easier for anyone else to build this. And then we can put in like, oh yeah, make sure you do this, little checkpoints and quality control points, like make sure you do X, Y, and Z kinds of things. But if you're a complete novice, you can actually start thinking about it. And instead of saying like, I'm stumped, just start thinking about it. And if you were to do this, what would be the steps? Obviously, you've got to take the stock lumber and cut it into particular dimensions. So, okay, there's a cut list. Cut this piece to, cut 2 pieces for these verticals to this length. Okay, that's a separate step in the instructional. So, after you say you even extract this from CAD, do the technical drawings, you can start adding steps. So a lot of different people can do the work. Now here you have a complete design already, so you don't have to invent any of this. This stuff is proven industry standard. It works according to building codes and all of that. So the next steps are to get a lot of people involved in documentation. Now the thing is, this work is like the idea or the concept, it's like 1% idea, 99% of it is just busy work. Like documentation, extracting the technical drawings, making instructionals, build pictures, videos. I mean, anyone can do that, but it takes a lot of time, and that's why we're doing the crowd development. So that kind of summarizes this. I won't go much further. So download the file, start manipulating it, and join our documentation sprints, which we're going to hold. And to do that, there's a few steps you have to do. So just start a work log on the wiki and do your basic exercise where you show us that you can actually copy and paste an image from FreeCAD and put it into an instructional. And if you can do that, join us in documentation. So I think we'll quit it there. Katerina, anything else to add?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll quit it right here and join us in documentation. Thanks. All the links to the files will be below. Bye-bye.